So now what I want to do is just very quickly introduce Panel B to all of you. So Panel B members are people who are currently working on history projects for their service entities. And we have from Turkey, Betul, and from France, Janet and Sophie, from Ireland, Connor, from Quebec, Isabel, from Georgia, Mark, from the UK, James, and from Moscow, Theodore. So we're going to turn this over now to Isabel, the panel leader for Panel B. And first up, I believe, is Betul. And thank you guys so much. I'm so excited to hear what you guys have to say.
Shall I go on? Okay. Hi, my name is Betül, and I'm an addict from Istanbul, Turkey. Thank you so much. Red called on me, contacted me, and then I got to talk to Isabel. I have only, so here I am. I also have another member who's one of the early members here with us, and our delegate and our alternate delegate, and I hope some more people. NA is in Turkey is 27 years, and I've got to tell you at this point, we have not started anything, but I have yet, but I have from day one, those 27 years in existence, and I was at the first meeting, so I have that much clean time. But Kerem here has 1 year more than I have. We were 4 members, and we were all AA members. I personally, stopped using in AA. So anyway, but these guys had the message from out of Turkey, Kerem and another guy. So we witnessed. I was both a part of that process, but also of the miracle of NA coming out of AA, which wasn't one day. It took one action. The first meeting to call on, well, actually, it took one addict out there who would, when I asked them, would you come to an NA meeting if there was NA, if there was an NA meeting? And he said yes. So I got back, and we got, from the hospital, AA was holding meetings. We asked the management to give us hours. So we started, I was witness that NA, the purpose of the group was to carry the message to the still suffering addict. And that addict came, then he didn't come, but we stayed on and we carried on. So that's the meeting. That was one group. So, I was part of the, how it came about, but I sure am not the founder of NA. But you see, history, that is why history is so important to me. It's like so existential to me, because they get, my legacy is going on. I want it to be carried on the way it really was. Therefore, from day one, I didn't know things were gonna go that way, but you know, from day one, I collected the notes of that one group. I collected everything, you know, like, see this? This is one of the group members. That is a little telephone card. We weren't computerized then. So I kept everything. That's like we put our name on and gave it to the newcomer. So I saved all of that for the first 5 years. Anyway, I thank Chris and Boyd for the tremendous work they did. We are nowhere near that. But, you know, inspire, unify, carry the message. I put my name under that. You know, history is NA history. I was sharing with Red the other day. This is one of my discoveries lately. Like, we look at the sky when we imagine future. But what we actually see there, those stars are past. They are not there anymore. So like in NA is like grounds for relativity. So like, here I am, and you are my future, our future in Turkey. I am all for writing Turkey's history of NA because it is so special. It's so unique in many ways. Think about this. We are in existence 27 years. And think about us geographically. We have Iran, which is about the same time, and see how big it is. We have Russia, we have the European side, we have the Middle Eastern south, down south, and we are like 85 million people, and RNA serves all that, those many people. Our region does that. And you know how many people we are? At best 300 NA members. So this is a very special situation for all of NA. But what is important is, of course, for us, this has not been easy. It's been very, it's been very frustrating for me personally. This is my personal thing. But we kept on. We kept on. We stayed clean. And the newcomers, the new generation, they say, we are grateful for our, old-timers simply because they kept the doors open. This is what is said, simply, one sentence. But the history gives you how those doors. We almost killed each other for 5 years. The first 5 years we were wonderful, rocketing. But the second 5 years we almost like killed each other. And now we have only 2 of those 4 members coming to meetings. One, we've just heard, went back to using, but it's okay. We respect and love him all the same. And we hope, we called on him the other day for him to come speak. And you know what? He came and he spoke. That's how he loves NA in his heart. We are in Turkey are here to learn what you know, what you're doing, how you're doing it, because we sort of like, okay, I'll give you one example, but somebody has to tell me to shut up because I can go on for hours. Okay, thank you, Isabel. Like history, we used, okay, facts about NA in PR work. We've been doing that. We translated it and we updated and, you know, but also we wrote, actually, you know, we wrote the story of NA in Turkey in the same PI pamphlet form, very short. It tells about when NA started in Turkey, how many groups we have. We keep updating that too. Whom are we in contact with? What did we do? Da 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 da. It's a PI actually, and our connections. You see, another interesting thing about Turkey is we were one group, and our GSI, myself, I was the delegate to the European delegates meeting. So we learned, I mean, our next level of service was EDM. Thank you, Isabel. So all these very interesting things, you know, it's been hard for me but like I wouldn't trade any minute of it. Thank you very much.
So I guess maybe I could speak just a little bit in organizing the panel B. So Betül from Turkey was, she was our prequel because she's not on any project right now, but she's ready. She's ready. Whenever they come, she's there. So I thought that would be an amazing topic for us to hear about. The second panel B member is Janet from France, and she's probably going to be helped a little bit by Sophie, also from France. They're at the very beginning of their project as well. I'm going to let them speak for themselves.
Hi, thanks. My name's Janet. I'm an addict, and in fact, I'm speaking for Sophie mainly because it was Sophie's idea in the beginning. Professionally, she's been a journalist, and she's an iconograph and documentation, and so she knows all that. So when she was in NA, doing a lot of service with PI and PR and the groups and on all different levels, she realized that you know, when they were changing of people in different service positions, people got a bit lost because sometimes it was quite complicated and there was no way of passing on the experiences from the people beforehand. And she thought that, well, during the lockdown, she had a bright idea. Oh, I think I'll go and offer to do archives for NA France. So she said, well, she wanted to present her idea to the board, and then eventually get some sort of, the idea is to do it as a part of the NA structure. And we didn't know whether it would be as a subcommittee or as a committee. So she went to present her ideas, and they said, oh yes, it's all very interesting, but come back with some concrete ideas. You know, show us some examples from other countries. So Sophie contacted the archive group in Florida, who were very, very helpful. And she came back, and she's so she presented, you know, these to the in French and English it's called the Service Regional Service Assembly, yes. And then so ever since then, they've been like, we've become a little group of like 4 or 5, and we got hooked up with Connor in Ireland, who was very helpful, and he hooked us up with history lovers, and so we've been, you know, doing 1 or 2 preparation meetings with you guys. And even listening to Chris and Boyd was incredibly helpful. I just wanted to write everything down. And Peter also sent us a whole list of like fantastic information. And it's just like, we just need these guidelines. The thing now is to be accepted as a part of the structure, because it would help us financially. We wouldn't have to be burdened with, dealing with that. Also, it's it's like principles before personalities. It's not me and we and doing our project. It's like, it's NA and people in NA who want to be a part of, collecting all this history. So we had another meeting the other day, and from the 4 people, there were 8 people. So we've doubled, which is quite good. We also, it was the 9th tradition, which was very important. It was what did I write now? I've written all this down. So NAs as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those we serve. And we would like to be, to use that tradition as from what we're doing. I mean, it could end up being ad hoc if we're not accepted. If they say, oh no, we don't want you to be a part of, NA committee or subcommittees and just go and do it yourself. But we decided, well, I thought it would be a good idea anyway, because as it's been said already, history is every day, history is now. And if we don't start now, when are we going to start? NA in France started in 1983. And there were 3 women from AA who started it in 1983. And one of these women actually did like a yearly from 1983 to 1991. She wrote about 3 sentences in each year, just to give us a basic guideline of what actually happened. And it's like, and then there have been little half-hearted attempts to do something on cloud or something on an internet site, but nothing has really officially been organized here. So our idea is to really, get onto it, because it's getting late and we're losing a lot of members, and we just need to capture what we can now. So more shall be revealed.
Merci, Janet. Cool. Did Sophie, would you like to add anything?
No.
No, okay. So these are the members that are just at the beginning of the process, as you can see, and they're trying to attach to a service structure to make it legit and to get the help that they need. Then we have Connor from Ireland, who will speak on disunity and timing. Let me find you, Connor. There you are. Not doing this very well, sorry. Ah. Oh God, I'm so sorry for the delay.
Hi, my name's
There
Connor. Hi, thanks Isabel, thanks everybody, great to see you all. How long have I got, Isabel? How long have I got? Oh, you're 10 minutes, okay. So, disunity and timing, amongst other things. Basically, I've been thinking about this, obviously in advance of doing the presentation. Ireland as a society, as a country, as a people, are deeply embedded in their own history. Our history is a really, really kind of live thing for most Irish people. So it's remarkable how little attention we've paid to our NA history over the last number of years. And indeed, like, Ireland is one of the oldest NA communities in the world. As far as I know, NA started in America, Canada, Australia. I'm not sure when New Zealand kind of came on board. Then American Army bases in Germany, which don't really count because they're America. And then much more, very importantly to us, then in Ireland. And what was really important is we were there before the British were. So that tells you a little bit about the Irish attitude to things by 1 year. And I, as a relative newcomer, was at the 10th anniversary celebration, which was basically a guy, one of our members was a baker, and he baked a cake and he brought it to the Friday meeting that pretty much everybody in the fellowship in Dublin went to at that time. That meeting was big enough to kind of take most of the people in the fellowship at that time. And that was 1989, the 7th of October, 1989. As the 20th anniversary approached, myself and a couple of friends decided that we wanted to mark this, and we knew who the founders were and we knew what had happened, and we all had a kind of a sense of what the history was. Oh, sorry, I just meant to say one other thing just as I continue. I have 3 slides I'd love to end with, and I sent them in, I think, to Lynn too late to get into those drop boxes, but if anybody know they're there, they are there. Okay, because you could always make me a co-host and I can share them if necessary. Oh, you have them. Thanks, Brian. Great. So, yeah, the 20th anniversary came up, and we went and we talked to the old timers, to the dinosaurs, and some of them said, "Well, it's not the 20th anniversary. Actually, it's the 21st anniversary because we started NA in Ireland in 1978, and the person who you think started NA in Ireland in 1979 is, not, entirely telling the truth." And it just caused ructions, conniptions, I think, which I used to think was an Irish word, but in fact it's a Yiddish one, as I discovered later. And, myself and my friends who put on this, we were basically, the event managers for this show, and all we wanted was these bloody old timers to just get in line and just, speak from the same bloody hymn book. And, we hired Dublin civic offices, which was, kind of quite a big deal at the time. We hadn't had such a kind of big public showing before. I remember one female newcomer coming out of the event afterwards and saying to me with kind of wonder in her eyes, "I had no idea that NA existed outside Dublin." She didn't know it was a worldwide fellowship. So, I mean, just that alone was a reason enough to put on the history thing. But unfortunately, the old timers all got up on stage and all contradicted each other as to what did who, when, how, and who did it first. And I was just at the backstage, just going, "Oh, for fuck's sake." That was the disunity. Having said that, I know that the people who attended that meeting, and we have a recording of the meeting, got an awful lot out of it and got a great sense, like the fact that these people were still there, even though they couldn't agree. The fact that we had been in Ireland since 1979 or 1978 was just, mind-blowing for an awful lot of people. And that really kind of gave me the taste for history. And I kind of then I was doing regional service at the time, and I talked to them about doing some work on the archive. And the archive was basically a bunch of black plastic bags in a basement office in the centre of Dublin above an underground river that burst its banks about every 20 years, so it was just like precarious in the extreme. And myself and a couple of the other guys, including a trained archivist who was a member at the time, who unfortunately is no longer with us, Shane McDonald, went down and we did a first kind of cull on the archives. We went through it. Anything that was kind of damaged by damp had to go, really damaged by damp. Anything that we felt was going to exist, in somebody else's archive meant that went as well. So anything that, these are very basic kind of rules of thumb that we gave ourselves. But we ended up with a couple of other smaller black plastic bags, and then a much better office above ground, which is where we are today and where the archive is now slowly taking shape. And as a result of that, at our 25th anniversary convention, for the very first time, we still hadn't catalogued our archive. We hadn't, written our history. Actually, after that, the only written history of Irish NA is on the Irish regional website, and I'm just going to read a little bit from it. About the first groups that started met under the improvised title of Drugs Anonymous. The meeting read out a poster with the first step that read, "We were admitted we were powerless over drugs and our life had become unmanageable." That group used AA literature, and members substituted the words alcohol and drugs for one another. The secretary of this group was Tom C., who's gladly still with us. Sometime in early 1979, some NA literature was received from the World Service Office, and the group changed its names to NA, Narcotics Anonymous. And here comes the huge diplomatic thing. It is not clear how long this group continued to meet, because there are various different opinions as to how long that group continued to meet. What is clear is a separate group started later that year using the same poster on October the 7th, 1979, with Mark F., also thankfully still with us as secretary. There had been NA meetings held continually in Ireland since that date. And that was acceptable to all parties. And that took a little bit of kind of coming to. So that was kind of where we really had to apply the principles of unity to try and get people together. Now, the first look through the archive at that 25th anniversary convention, we showed some of the treasures to our membership that we'd found in those black plastic bags. And oh my God, again, you know, some people couldn't care less, but many people had their minds blown by some of the stuff that we had. And I'm going to show you a couple of them at the end of my presentation. I approached the region back then about, you know, doing some work in the archive. They said, yes, go on. And then my life changed. I changed jobs and didn't do it. And I've approached them again recently. And we have, for the very first time, created the position of a regional archivist. And I am that person. And I'm very proud and glad to be that person. And I'm also incredibly glad that I've had a group of really great people assemble itself around me, because I in no way want to do this on my own. One of them is in the meeting at the moment, Ruth. She's here with us this evening as well. And when we were starting to have our first meetings just in the last couple of months, and I was worrying about, you know, will I reopen the old wounds when we go to talk to these old timers and get their histories from it? And Ruth put herself forward to do all the interviews. And Ruth, you know, she has a lot of relevant experience in her professional life, and she's not in any, you know, in any, thank you, not in any of the camps, and she's just the perfect candidate to approach this quite delicate part of telling our history, and I'm really, really happy about that. You know, we have great hopes for this project. It's basically called the Irish History Project. You know, it started out as just like, we need to catalogue our archive. We need to know what we've got. But, you know, even that first little kind of ad hoc exhibition, which was basically on two kind of adjoining stands at that convention in 2004, you know, that was a really, really great thing to do. I think that when we come to the end of this project, and I'm not sure when that will be, we will have the makings of a book, you know, and the Irish love books, you know, we're very good at writing them. So I have no idea who's going to write the book. It won't be me, but I will certainly put an awful lot of effort into it. And, you know, we're kind of very energized at the moment. This history workshop thing has come along at a very good time for us. It's great to kind of be connected to all you guys across the world. I was living in Paris the last couple of years, and I met Redmer from New Zealand, and he was the one who introduced me to this. And, you know, all connections. And, you know, I'm happy now that, you know, the time has passed, people have kind of gotten over themselves, and everybody, including all the old timers who may or may not agree with each other ever again about some of the details, will see the bigger picture and will just help us with gathering as much material as we can. So at this point, Brian, if you could just show the first slide there.
Tell me which one's the first one.
It says image, it's called image 1. There's image 1, image 2, image 3. First one is the meeting list.
Okay.
So,
is that it?
No, not seeing anything.
Hold on for 1 sec. Technical difficulties, give me 1 moment.
And I'd also, at this point, I'd like to apologize. There we go. So this is the first Irish meeting list typed out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meetings in the entire island of Ireland. And again, you know, that might not mean a lot to you. It means a huge amount to us who now have grazing 200 meetings every week in Ireland. Fortunately, mostly online at the moment due to the circumstances, but still. Could we have the next slide, please?
Which one was the next one? I don't have them labeled.
Image 2, the banner.
Okay.
This is the handmade banner for the first ever Irish convention. Made with love, signed by many of the early members. I see down here, "Work the Steps or Die," written by some diehard down there, but lots of signatures and stuff. Graphic design, maybe not one of our strong points in 1983, but there's a lot of heart in this, and that is just a very precious item that I think we're going to enjoy showing to the fellowship when we get the archive completely catalogued. And then our last moment, bit of treasure is the postcard, which is a postcard from Jimmy Kinnan. Dear Liam, it was uplifting to my spirit to talk to you. I was a little low when you called. 12 stepping sure works. 5 minutes after I hung up, I found the address as mentioned. He's supposed to be there until mid-February. We'll send you material right away. Yours in fellowship and love, Jimmy Kinnan, WSC. I imagine that would have been sometime in, we don't have a date on it, but it's probably going to be sometime 82, 83. When there were kind of loner members in Northern Ireland and other parts of the Irish region. So, you know, we found that, we showed it at that exhibition, and, you know, we're thrilled to bits. You know, we you know, for us in this history project, you know, it's very important to show that we are unified in time as well as space. You know, this, you know, something like that card from Jimmy shows both of those things, both of those kind of parts of unity. And you know, I think I'm just looking forward to everything that this history project brings. And thank you for letting me share. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Connor. So next is me. I'm from Quebec, which is the French part of Canada. And so we have been working on this project. I'm really, really nervous, I have to say. There's people from everywhere, and there's like stars, NA stars, so I'm really worried. Here you go. Okay, so we started this project. We're working on a book project, a history book project, and we started it inspired by what New York did, and also by the podcast that Chris and Boyd have put together. It's called My Recovery Cast. If you want to see it, you don't like it. There's a grimace. But it was really, really, really inspiring to us. And so we decided we wanted to work on a history book project as well. And so Lynn was very, very helpful. She came to Quebec to give a workshop that was recorded. And so we're basing everything that we're doing on that. We've been working on it for almost 4 years now. And it is very frustrating. It is a very long process. And our experience here is that the members are very suspicious of us. So they're suspicious of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and who gets to say what happened. And so we try and reassure them by telling them that we're doing this with the journalistic integrity, which is the kind of, if 3 people say that something happened, then it did happen. They have to be there, obviously. So eyewitnesses, so if 3 eyewitnesses say that something happened, then we can say that it's the truth. If not, it's an opinion. And so that kind of reassures them a little bit, but it's not easy. And also they're very suspicious about money, because we have been involved in fundraising from the beginning as a way of publicizing the project. So for us, it's just a way of getting people to know what's happening. And so what we do, basically the most, so there's 2 things that we do. There was we have gotten a donation of books, novels, different novels, like not NA related, and we sell them, like a lot of them, and we sell them for $1 each. And so people come and they buy our books, and then we get a chance to chat with them about the project and what we're doing, and even maybe do a little interview, and we're also available to scan anything that they might bring to us on that special day. So we've been doing those like maybe twice a year, and well, except this year, obviously, but it's been helpful, but it has generated a little bit of profit. The other way that we generated profit was a lot of people have donated stuff to us, like memorabilia, merchandising, like cups and shirts and stuff like that. And once we've taken a picture of it, we don't really need to keep the object. So we've given them for auction, or we've just sold them, like cups. We've had like a lot of cups. And so, you know, we don't need cups in our project. So we sold them for like 20 bucks each, and we made a lot of profit. And it's been given us a way to, like I said, talk about the project and let people know, and also get contacts, because some people will say, oh, I remember this guy was there in the beginning. And so we try and get contacts from these events that we put together. So it brings us to the fact that we have made a little bit of money, and that people are suspicious of what we're going to do with the money. Why do you need money? And obviously, like, printing a book costs money. And I know that the New York Fellowship did a party and they sold the book before it was printed, and that's how they got the money to do it. But we just thought it would be a good way to do the publicity that way. So that's how we've been going about with the publicity and the fundraising for our project. Also, you know, if anything happens and we're too rich, like if we have too much money from all the fundraising that we did, we're just going to give it back to NA. So it's no problem, really. It's just all the more for NA and for the region. So yeah, so basically what I had to share mostly is the fact that it's tough. I feel, for me, it's tough to feel the suspicion of everyone. It's like, I feel like I'm the bad guy, and I'm not. I'm just trying to do something good, right? And to have all this, like, a lot of people have been saying that NA was created in 1980 something, like 85, 84 in Montreal, in Quebec, I mean. But we have found through Chris and Boyd that there was a meeting in Montreal in 1954. And so when we say this, we kind of clash with everyone's souvenirs and recollections. And so it's kind of, yeah, the disunity that Connor was talking about is very palpable. I mean, and I was, even though Lynn told me, I wasn't expecting it, because in Quebec, we're kind of, you know, low key, and we're easygoing, and we don't like to fight. And so I was just thinking, they're just gonna avoid the conflict, and everything's gonna be amazing. And we also had people from the English part of NA, because there's ENA, which is the English speaking NA in Quebec. And then there's NA, which is the French speaking, because it's mainly what the population is mostly French. So we were trying to get like a liaison with them and it just created even more problems. So, like, I was not expecting all these problems to come up, and I'm still grateful to be working on this project with everyone else. And it is an amazing project, and we do have an amazing subcommittee, which, like, it's like family. We're just so close. And so, yeah, I'm very, very grateful for this project. I'm very grateful for this event today with everyone. And I got to speak to people from all over the world to coordinate, and I love it. I'm really, really happy. And thank you, Lynn, for inviting me and for making me part of this select people from all over the world who are, you know, really involved in their fellowship. So this is what I had to say. Also, I have had a request from someone who is not mainly English speaking to make sure that if your main language is English, that you speak slowly, please, because there are people from all over the world here. So if they want to be able to understand, they want you to be speaking slowly. So thank you very much. And I will switch to Mark in Georgia, USA, and he will be talking about the interview process. Not getting to.
Can everybody hear me? That's good. I am Mark. I'm an addict. I am from the Georgia region history book committee. There's about presently 7 of us, and I want to thank Lynn. We wouldn't have gotten as far as we have had it not been for what we learned from New York and from Florida. I'm kind of missing the Florida participants today because they were, Bob Gray was a big influence with us. And and I want to say Isabel is our leader, and I want to thank her for guiding us for the last couple of months with Panel B. I really look forward today to listening to Panel C because I'm kind of in, we've been in this project for almost 5 years, and a lot of the questions that we have, Panel C have already experienced that. So this is a great day for us because we get to learn. But what Panel B knew that we had done over 65 interviews with our members, and what we found was very important was it didn't matter whether your area, your region, your country was fixing to write a book or in the process of that, but it was that now was the time to do these interviews because our members were getting older and we were losing some of those members. So in Georgia, we have tons of archives. We have tons of meeting schedules and flyers and minutes of our region, and all that stuff is stored in boxes and stuff that we can look at later. But it was our members that we were in jeopardy of losing. So we put a kind of an order of listing those members that were medically fragile, and that meant to us that may be serious in their health conditions. And then that was like group 1, and then group 2 was those members that were getting older, 40 to 50 years clean. And then we did 30 to 40 years, and then 20 to 30. And we kind of stopped at that point because that was towards the end of where we're at with our book. But back to those members that was so important to us. I did an interview with a guy that was from one of our areas, and he had to cancel 3 times because of cancer, and he had to go into the hospital, emergency visits, and his family would take him there and they'd call and say he's got to cancel the appointment. Eventually, we were able to have that interview in his home, And he got there, and I introduced myself, and I knew him from meetings, and he was one of our predecessors. He started telling his story about how grateful he was that we were there and that we were going to preserve his first day in recovery through his 30 years of clean time. And about 10 minutes into this interview with this guy, I was in tears. And we had two committee members with us, and we were all just crying. We started hugging each other, and he was telling his story about his first day and his life in that fellowship. He did pass away about 6 months later, and I was so grateful that we took the time to, get that interview done. And at his funeral, he had 3 daughters, and his daughters knew he had been in the fellowship all his life. They grew up in the meetings, and we shared that. It was a video, audio, and visual. So we shared that with the family, and when that day, that was like interview number 2, and at that point we realized that all that other stuff was okay, but we needed to get the members recorded. You can do audio, you can do visual, but that's probably, we can't bring the folks back once they're gone. So we sat down and we could do about, in those 5 years, we've done 65 interviews. We have lost probably 8 of those members, but we do have them recorded. Another thing that was real important, that we used 2 sets of audio, so we had a backup of the first one. So if anything failed with the equipment, we had a backup equipment. So we used 2 audios and 2 visuals. And we had some issues before, but because of the backup, we didn't lose that interview. So the equipment that we found, use digital equipment so that you can later have that transcribed to whatever format you're going to use. We went through about 5 different transcribing formats that you find online and people had told us about. We finally got it down to one that actually does a very decent job. But you can spend, for an hour interview, you could spend a day trying to transcribe it. But those interviews are going to is going to be the backbone of our book. It is. They'll tell you stories about when they got there and the meetings that they went to, who was there. And we were very fortunate that Lynn had from New York had gave us our list of questions to ask, because a lot of times the person you're interviewing will want to tell you their personal recovery story, and that's kind of not what the history part of it. Sometimes you have to lead that person back. You want to ask them their name. You want to ask them, what city they live in, what meeting they went to, what was NA like in those first days, who were you going to meetings with, so you can get that person back on track in order to get a real history from that interview. There's some people that I've interviewed that just told us their personal story, and at the end I didn't have a lot of historical. So that was important to have a list of questions, and from probably those folks in panel C have already done that and have a good group of questions to give you. Without those interviews, I for the last couple of days have been transcribing 2 or 3 that were in a certain area, and I am just blown away about some of the things they say. So that's where you get a lot of your information from, is those members, and that's going to be the story from Georgia. And I thank y'all today. I thank Boyd and Chris for all the stuff that they've given us over the years. It's just unbelievable. It's a great help to Georgia to get. I'm guessing we're probably going to be in this for 2 or 3 more years, and I thank this committee for allowing me to participate. And I want to thank all of my committee members that do this work on a daily basis. And without them, I don't know how this would be possible, but thank y'all for letting me share today.
Thank you very much, Mark. So the next person is James from the UK, and he will be speaking on the history days that they put together during these COVID times.
Okay, my name's James Naminatic. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Can you hear me? Good.
Yep.
Right, I'm extremely anxious. I'm not used to doing this. I find the Zoom platform kind of quite intimidating, but and I'm a Luddite as well. So my name's James Naminatic, and also made a lot of notes here. I want to just thank you for providing this platform to enable so many of us to share our experience of putting together history events and archive today, and particularly Lynn, who I met a couple of years ago in New York, because we had the notion of writing a book, and she's been incredibly helpful. The lockdown has provided us with an unprecedented opportunity to gather together. One second, I don't want to run over time. To gather together and work on history projects in a collaborative way, which some of us had not previously had the time or the push to do. For example, my wife and I had Johnny Horton's personal archive in our office. Johnny was one of the original co-founders of Narcotics Anonymous in the UK, along with Dudley Sutton. And he always said that NA started with resentment because the other fellowship didn't want addicts sharing about drugs. However, NA in the UK had a further silent member who actually spoke at one of our history days, Sean O'Dea, who we actually video interviewed, did a living history with him. And he helped Johnny set up with others by giving Sean, who was an AA member, give Johnny and Dudley the literature to start the first meeting. In fact, got the whole. And the literature came from another addict called Paulie, who's just passed recently, from Germany, because I think the German fellowship started in '79. We started August the 7th, 1980. We had started to collate and upload Johnny's archive onto Dropbox, but hadn't had the time to finish it. So lockdown gave us a bit of time, and we got it done, and is now accessible to any NA member or NA group who requests it, and it can never be lost because it's on the internet now. At the same time, Paul R., a UK member, came up with the idea of forming a committee to put on NA UK History Days, where 10 to 12 speakers would share their experience, strength and hope on specific times and topics through their personal journey of NA and recovery. Paul set up a Facebook page called NA UK History Page, 1980 to 2020, which anybody can access, which currently has 2,279 members. The idea was to enable members to share history, anecdotes, photographs, conventions and events and so forth. And we were able to upload Johnny's archive on this page so that everybody who was interested could have it, and it was memorialized. In the first week, the Facebook page attracted 1,800 members. And I think this was to do with the pandemic, you know, and it was hugely emotional and a connective experience for many of us, often bringing together people who hadn't come across each other for years. There was a lot of tears and laughter were shed as people remembered their early NA experiences together. I mean, personally, quite a few people inboxed me as a result of NA UK history who had not been to a meeting in years. It stayed clean, but they just weren't going to meetings. In fact, one member hadn't been to a meeting for 18 years, and he started going back to NA, which is just, it's just remarkable. The committee, that is, and I just want to acknowledge these people because they put in an awful lot of hard work, which was Paul, Barbara, Hugo, Jennifer, Patrick, Robert, Debbie, Tom, Yanni, Reggie, my wife Vicky and myself had put on a series of NA UK history events via Zoom where speakers shared. These included two of the periods. We started with, NA started August 1980. So there was 2 days of the 1980s, then one of the 1990s, followed by 2000 to 2010, and then 2010 to 2020. We then agreed to put on 2 further events on topics that we felt were really important and which would affect most of us either personally or through our relationships with other people. These events were recovery and relapse and in times of illness, and were both extremely powerful experiences for those who spoke and for members who attended. I mean, for me personally, participating in the service has been a privilege. All shares have been recorded by Hugo, where recording permission was given by the speakers. There was a couple of people didn't want to be recorded, which was fine. So what we actually did was send out an email to people and got them to sign it. And it's all been uploaded by him onto Dropbox so that they're again accessible to all NA members via the Facebook history page. I just want to thank Hugo. I think he's there somewhere. And we decided to dedicate a history day to celebrating the 40-year anniversary of NA in the UK on the 6th and 7th of August. And that was on Zoom with fireworks at midnight for our birthday. One member, Tom, produced an amazing video of our predecessors, those who had died and also people who were still alive. And Jim S. wrote the music for one of these videos, which was an absolute memorial to the history and tradition of NA in the UK. There are also 20 NA members wanting. I'm going to talk a bit about the structure of how we did it. All our committee communication took place via WhatsApp group we set up in April, and the regular committee meetings and phone calls as we were unable to meet physically because of COVID. Several of us worked together to produce flyers and posters for the events that we posted on our Facebook page, and also forwards to NA members in private NA groups. I mean, for example, the first history day we had 500 people, which was quite good, you know, considering we had no idea what we were doing. In terms of the event facilitation, we decided to have a single host for each evening for the full 5 to 6 hours, and our hosts were Vicky and Yanni. This worked well as it kept the structure of each event cohesive. We took serious security issues, re-trolling and protecting the safety and anonymity of members. So we created roles within the committee of troll keeper and doorkeeper, because we had experienced before that a lot of bullshit, you know, a lot of trolls and horrible stuff. So we had a troll keeper and doorkeeper re-letting people in and requiring them to put their video on as they came in and to rename themselves with their first name and initial and not to use a device name. The troll keeper and the doorkeeper communicated with the host and co-hosts to ensure that anything that seemed dodgy was handled sensitively and safely. We had set up the chat function so that members could communicate with the host and co-host, but not with general people attending. We enabled a waiting room where we could put people who refused to put on their video or rename themselves, and we were able to maintain the balance between safety whilst not becoming the NA police. Thank you. Some of us had experienced awful trolling in other meetings, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't get troll bombed in the middle of our events, exposing our members to this kind of thing. There was new territory for us as a committee, so we had to find our way through it by working together and thinking things through carefully, because we were aware that hundreds of members could be affected by the troll situation, which was quite big over here for some reason. We had asked speakers to name themselves as speaker followed by their first name and initial to enable us to find them easily in the participants list, and communicate with them and make sure they were okay. In fact, all the history days, very fortunate, went without a hitch. We had set up the Facebook page so that any post requires approval by one of our designated admins to keep it relevant to history. We've tried to be open-minded, productive and responsible as a committee and to apply the traditions of what we were doing. Now, a little bit about the evolution. We actually had a 39-year history day last year, which again was Paul R's idea and Mick M. And this sort of gave birth to the whole idea of the online thing. I just want a big thank you to Paul R if he's out there. We also did, and I'm going to finish on this, which was really important. I went out to New York. I went to Los Angeles and I met Kirsten, who put me in touch with Lynn in New York. And I'm a bit like Forrest Gump. I've just been fortunate to be in the right places at the right time down through the history. I got clean in '84. I got clean in a unit where they had the first H&I NA meeting, which was a really, just going back to what Boyd said earlier, this was a prison where they actually had a therapeutic community for addicts and alcoholics, which was amazing. The only type of its kind in the country, which doesn't even exist anymore. You know, so what we did was we got Lynn's list of questions to ask, because we wanted to write a book as well, and you know, it's in a process at the moment. And we did some video interviews with the early members, including, and this was with Frankie R and my wife, and we interviewed Dudley before he died. And the other person we interviewed, which was fantastic, was Sean O'Dea, who was the silent member. We went to Wales to see him, and that was really, really good. And I think it was important to to give people a bit of space beyond the questions. And it was just remarkable, the whole thing, you know, as a living history. Moving forward, we think, you know, it's going to be difficult to do physical interviews with the COVID situation for now. So we're thinking of doing something, maybe a Zoom interview. The other thing I just wanted to say was, I know he's here, I can see him, Bob D from Leeds. There is an archive. We have got a lot of archive, but there is another archive, and like Connor said, it's just a load of stuff in a room, and that basically needs to be sorted out. You know, we need to make it cohesive in some way, and that's going to be a big job, because as from what Bob says, there's a huge amount of stuff. All the stuff we've got, we've archived it all. It's all digitalized. Anybody, if they go onto our NA UK history page, can see the full history of what Johnny put together, which was, and elsewhere, and there was an enormous amount of stuff there. And that's about it, really. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. I know that when people read from written notes, it's very, very hard to translate. So I'm sure Lynn will get in touch with you to try and see if you can get your notes, and maybe we can just forward them later. So the next person on my list, I'm not sure if he's there, because he's just written that he needed to be pushed back 10 minutes. So I'm just going to click and see if he's available. Are you there? Fyodor from Moscow.
Are you in Europe?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, great, perfect. So Fyodor is in the Moscow, and he's working. He will speak on the challenges, basically. So there you go. Go right ahead, Fyodor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. Can you listen me? Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to organizers, especially to Isabel and Lynn. And I'd like to say thank you for Peter from New York. Hi, Peter. Yeah. So my name is Fyodor. I'm from Moscow. I serve in a committee named The Book. It's been 6 years. We trying to create our historical book about Moscow NA Fellowship, and I'm really happy to announce we almost done. We are on the pre-production stage currently. Yeah, thank you. And I tell you, all that we have done wasn't easy, especially the first couple of years till the job got on track. So Moscow Fellowship's first meeting took place in 1992. It's a pretty long period of time to accumulate enough interesting material and experience. In some moment, we start to realize this unique experience is tend to disappear because people and recollections are gone every year. So curiously, on one hand, and warm feelings to our fellowship on the other hand pushed us to set off that difficult journey. 6 years later, I may say that it was the most interesting service in my recovery time. It made me sure one more time that our fellowship is the most valuable present of my recovery. So first step of our project was to collect as many materials as possible. We interviewed all the old-timers we were able to reach. In a few months, we have about 30 interviews on hand, pretty big amount of data. But the problem was, among all those interviews, there were no full, complete stories. People's memories dim after 20 years of time. We had some facts, scraps of memories, general impressions, and very limited written sources. So it was our first real obstacle on the way. We tried to start writing based on that material, but it was practically impossible. So how we solved that problem? The first step, we sorted out all the stuff. We elicited all the facts from our interviews and downloaded them into an Excel spreadsheet. After that, all the facts were assigned with some values. Who said the fact, when the fact happened, about whom or what that fact. Having done that, we got the opportunity to find any facts on any topic in our Excel spreadsheet just instantly. So the second step that helped us a lot was creating a timeline. It was direct advice from Peter from New York. We placed all main stages of developing our fellowship on that line based on the fact from the interviews. And last but not least, we made a table of content, more precisely a list of interesting topics which we would like to cover and which would be interesting to the fellowship. Have done that. On the second year of the project, we were able to write first chapters. It was our first major victory. The second topic I'd like to cover is duration of service in this project and problems connected with it. All my previous, my personal previous service experience is 2 years term maximum and pretty formal duties. All the time I had some written roadmap, how to act, what to do, and most importantly, how long. Not this time. This project is vice versa. It wasn't clear what and how. We fondly hoped to finish it in 2 years, It turns out 6 now. Maybe if I knew such prospects, I considered more my involvement more carefully. So in one moment we ended up in the situation when our service had been lasting a few years already, and we still didn't see light at the end of the tunnel. On the one hand, to serve for 6 years was too much, and on the other hand, we realized it's not impossible to pass our duties to anybody else. The project is so multitasking and complex, so it made nearly impossible to make standard rotation, especially because we had not much candidates. All the project participants accumulated huge amount of information during the service, so new servants would spend at least half of the year to delve into the process. We are lucky that we lost only one participant for 6 years. I have to say for sure that almost every servant in the project was irreplaceable. So how come we lasted that long? First, we don't have formal duties. Each of us was doing what he or she likes within the general plan, of course, and stop doing it if it started making some discomfort. We defined deadlines, and if it didn't meet them, we moved them forward with love and compassion. We reduced communication with service system because we had our own pace and didn't like to take part in endless meetings. It worked very well, by the way. But we reported our work on a regular basis. We took part in conventions, made some presentations there, exhibits, video clips, some souvenir items. We printed out like our some first chapters of our book, yeah, and got some feedback from the fellowship, and they definitely liked it. We wanted to make sure that our fellowship was aware of our affairs. Sometimes some of us took a long leave or vacation and switched to online communication solely. Me precisely did it a couple of times when I made some long trips to other parts of the world. 6 years service term takes a lot of love and compassion to each other. We consciously refused formal way of service to have opportunity to solve any problem in live communication, but not through the prism of some instructions. And in our case, it has worked perfectly. Yeah, I think I'm done here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fedor. I just want to also say how it is amazing that we have people whose English is their second language, who are really wanting to participate, and I want to thank everyone for their patience in trying to understand what everyone is saying. So that's an amazing job for panel B. Thank you very much, everyone.